This question is the inverse of the first. Of the 10 principles provided, which one of these is most an area of your own to develop? Explain how you might do this.
I work in Queensland, so given that we are finally catching up to the rest of the world with external exams, what I need to work on is my consistency of using weekly, monthly reviews, which is strategy 10, trying to balance and plan for them in advance rather than just hoping that we do them leading up to the exam. And prepping that spaced practice for our juniors is particularly a big push at the moment, getting them into good habits before they hit senior. I also really like using models, so I kind of want to do more of that in science.
The one strategy I would need to do or continue to work on is the one that requires and monitor independent practice. The requirements there, but I struggle with the monitoring. Are they doing independent practice? So that's probably something I could probably be a little bit more efficient and effective in.
All right, so in terms of weakness or something to work on, I want to agree with Courtney and Steve as well. They're all things that I could have listed as well, but I'm going to go with asks multiple questions. I think as an English teacher, we tend to focus on the writing and the reading, and speaking and listening as the third element are quite often minimised.
Yeah, one of the areas for me that I really want to work on is checking for understanding. I thought the article had a lot of useful strategies that I've already started using, and they've actually worked. So yeah, I found that really helpful, and I think that's a really, really important area. Feedback is so important, not just at the end of assessment tasks, but during learning as well. So I'm going to be looking at that.
The area that I would most like to develop is number 3, which is asking a lot of questions and checking the answers of all students. I'm really good at asking a lot of questions, but I'm that typical teacher that does the teacher crime of asking questions and getting their same favourite 3 students to talk back to them all the time. So I need to work on my strategies for getting everyone answering so I can see everyone's answer.
So areas of improvement, definitely chunking into smaller steps. As an early career teacher, I find myself being really pressed for time and being stressed out about that. And I was reading that article, and it's like the teacher goes around and reteaches. I'm like, that's me. So definitely an area of improvement. But I think it's like driving a car. You've got to learn each step first, and then you work them all together, and eventually you improve.
So an area for me that's not a strength at all times would be the checking for understanding. Too often, like this is not regular practice, but too often if I'm really pushed, like really squished for time, I will lean on all right, do we all understand? Nod. All right, let's move on. And I try to avoid it, but every now and then I catch myself sort of when the pressure's on, just that's where we end up.
Area to develop. I'm really good at this. I can tell you what I can't do. What I really need to improve is asking a large amount of questions to check responses for students. So I really need to work on my questioning technique in class. And so I really need to think about planning my questions before class, and rather than sort of doing them on the fly, so that I really sort of get my students doing that higher order thinking and connecting information from previous concepts.
I think for me, the area I'd want to improve most is principle number 3, because that's the one where I do it, but I don't get every student. And then, especially in some of my classes, I want to make sure I get every student. How I do it, I think I've got to start to leverage technology more than I do, and I use it a lot, but I've still got to leverage it a lot more to get a better understanding and better check for understanding of what the students are at, where they're at.
I can definitely find things that I can improve. I think the biggest one on the list out of the 10 principles of instruction would be the weekly and monthly reviews. I find that we feel so short of time that often that gets lost in the programming cycle. So I need to do a lot better at really strategically structuring my program to have that weekly and monthly review cycle happening.
An area that I could improve is number 5, the guiding student practice. Being science, it's a very busy curriculum, and the way that I generally deal with that is going, whoop, here's some theory, everyone got that, sweet, let's go do a prac because that's fun. And just don't allow the time to do that guided practice, going over things and over things. Something that came out of the article was the idea of overlearning, which I think is something that I should put into my practice.